Hello there. I'm glad you made it here. Tonight we set a quiet compass by the planets we know by heart. Small lights with familiar names scattered across the dark. Not to chase equations or race rockets, but to wonder, softly, how long it would take to reach each one. Mercury with its quick step, Saturn with its patient rings. Neptune, blue and far, keeping its cool at the edge of the family. We'll wander through timescales like stepping stones, days, months, years, what they mean to engines and what they feel like to people. No countdowns, no hurry. Just a slow stroll across the neighborhood of our sun, from the warm porch light near home to the dim yard where the Kuiper Belt hums. If this kind of gentle star wandering helps you rest, a quiet like and subscribe would be a kindness. It helps other night travelers find their way here, too. Settle into a story where distance is measured in time, and time in calm attention. The first stop is close, and the journey is long, in the best possible way. Let's begin. In the hush that follows ignition, Earth begins to drift away beneath us. Not a planet anymore, but a memory, dimming softly in the window. The engines fade into distance until all that remains is the quiet vibration of space itself, a hum so low and steady it feels like the universe breathing. Time loosens its grip. The journey begins not with speed, but with surrender. From this moment on, we are no longer bound by soil and sky. We are guests of the dark. The ship trembles under the push of invisible strength, and we rise through layers of fading blue. Then gravity sighs and lets us go. Below, the continents fold into shadow, the oceans into glass. The clouds that once raced across our days now swirl in slow motion, like milk poured into night. Through the window, Earth contracts not smaller, but simpler, whole. It spins in silence, wrapped in a faint halo of atmosphere, and for the first time, we can see it as it truly is, one fragile breath suspended in an ocean of black. Up here, time stretches, seconds become minutes, and minutes drift into thought. The mind quiets. The stars are no longer points of light scattered above. They are everywhere, unblinking, infinite. As we cross the invisible line between air and space, the sky loses its color. The blues collapse into velvet dark. No sunrise, no sunset, only Earth turning below, its daylight sweeping like a slow tide from ocean to continent. The hum of instruments replaces the whisper of wind. Movement is no longer made by footsteps or the turning of wheels, but by orbit itself, a graceful fall that never ends. The planet tugs at us gently, then releases, and in that rhythm, we begin to understand the first truth of the voyage. Motion is not departure. It is belonging to a larger dance. Out here, distance is not measured by miles, but by gravity's reach. Time stretches, folds, lingers. We start to feel that space is not empty after all. It is filled with quiet structure, unseen currents that shape every path. Gravity pulls, light bends, and even time itself seems to ripple, as if reluctant to move in a straight line. Our ship completes its first circle around the world. Below, the lights of cities twinkle like campfires scattered across night's floor. Storms swirl like brushstrokes, borders dissolve, nations vanish. There is only one glowing world, breathing beneath the dark. It is here, in this simple sight, that a gentle humility takes hold. All our striving, all our lines drawn in the dust, none of it survives this view. We are travelers now, not conquerors. Space has always been our inheritance. We've only just remembered. As the ship turns for its next burn, we feel the faint tug of home. It's not only physics, it's longing. The awareness that each passing second carries us farther from every voice, every streetlight, every soft corner we've ever known. Yet the feeling isn't loss. It's peace, the quiet kind, that comes when curiosity becomes trust. Beyond Earth lies a path older than memory. Planets have been circling here for billions of years, carving invisible lanes through gravity and light. We are not forging something new. We are joining what already is. When the engines whisper awake again, their tone is steady, patient. The world we knew slips behind us. Days and hours fall away. Ahead lies a map written not in ink, but in motion. Here, the meaning of time changes. We no longer count hours, we count trajectories. Clocks give way to equations of distance and drift. The thin shimmer of Earth's atmosphere fades until there is only night. And in that endless night, we understand we have not left our home. We carry it with us, the taste of its air, the warmth of its light, the echo of its gravity in our hearts. Every mile outward is still connected to what's behind, like ripples from a single stone in an infinite pond. Our voyage has begun, but we are not leaving. We are unfolding. Beyond the last wisps of air, space becomes a still sea. Here, movement is persistence. A single push endures forever, unless something stronger intervenes. There is no friction, no breeze, only momentum, a patient kind of travel that asks us to balance effort with time. Each decision becomes a trade, speed for fuel, energy for waiting. To rush is to burn, to wait is to drift. The planets ahead will help us choose. Their gravities reach out like hands, ready to lend us their pull. We call them slingshots, but the motion feels more like music. As we approach a planet, we fall toward it, drawn into its field. We circle close, and as we leave, we borrow a hint of its momentum, a silent gift of speed. The planet slows by an amount so small it will never notice, yet the exchange is real. In space, nothing moves alone. These paths are fragile things. They open only when the timing is perfect, when worlds align in the precise rhythm written by their orbits. Too early, and the way is closed. Too late, and we must take the long, cold road instead. So we wait, sometimes for years, until the cosmic pattern invites us onward. In that waiting, there is beauty. Engineers call it orbital mechanics, but it feels closer to patience, to faith in the geometry of the universe. We do not fight gravity, we listen to it. We let it shape our path as wind fills a sail. Each planet becomes both guide and companion, each curve of motion a gesture of trust. Traveling through this architecture of gravity is not defiance of nature, it is harmony with it. The farther we go, the more we sense that we are not moving through space at all, but with it. The universe is not still, it flows. Every orbit, every beam of light, every particle of dust contributes to a vast and quiet current. To travel here is to float in that current, to let it teach us about distance, about time, about ourselves. And so we continue, letting the quiet carry us. The stars keep their patient watch, neither hurrying nor delaying. And we learn to read our progress in the way gravity tugs a little differently with each hour. The silence fills rather than empties, dense with motion and intent, as if the universe were a clock heard from another room, steady, reassuring, exact. Mercury waits inward, close to the furnace, where daylight can arrive like a blade of white fire. To touch that inner world, we do not press harder on the throttle, we do the opposite. We loosen our hold on speed and let the sun gather us in. From Earth's path around the sun, about 30 kilometers each second, the instinct is to think faster. The inner system whispers another lesson. Drop toward the sun, and your heliocentric speed rises, whether you wish it or not. Mercury itself races along at roughly 47 kilometers per second. The puzzle is not simply reaching Mercury. The puzzle is arriving slowly enough to stay. So the approach becomes a long, careful unspooling of energy. Flybys are the metronome. Each pass by a planet is one soft tick, one measured shave of speed, never abrupt, always precise. A direct fall for a quick hello is possible in only a handful of months. The old Mariner 10 proved that, slipping from Earth to its first Mercurian kiss in about 4. But to linger, to circle, to make a home in that tight glare, patience is the price. Messenger left Earth in 2004, bent its path past Earth once, Venus twice, Mercury 3 times, and only in 2011 did it relax into orbit, 6.5 years of gracious deceleration. Another traveler, Bepi Colombo, chose a similarly intricate waltz, an Earth swing, 2 by Venus, then repeated brushes with Mercury itself. Each encounter a quiet subtraction of haste on the way to long-term company. Inward isn't nearer. Inward is steeper, brighter, more demanding of calm. Between those encounters, the ship coasts through a light that grows harsher by degrees. Solar heat at Mercury's distance can be up to about 10 times what warms our afternoons at home when the planet is nearest the Sunday. Thermal shields become not mere hardware but shade, shelter, a promise. Guidance and navigation turn delicate, tiny nudges with immense consequences, like moving a teacup and shifting the path of a river days later. The spacecraft practices a kind of celestial Tai Chi, small gestures, clean lines, balance rather than force. Then the window fills with charcoal. Mercury arrives without preamble, a gray world of scars and silence framed by glare so fierce it seems to turn space into glass. There is no soft air to blur the edges. With almost no atmosphere, only a fragile exosphere of atom-thin whispers kicked up by sunlight, and micrometeoroid shadows are knife-sharp, black as ink. At noon, the ground can sear near 430 degrees Celsius. In darkness, it falls below -170. The sky never turns blue. It is always night above the land, even when the land is bright as a kiln. Time behaves strangely here. A year near the sun is brief. Mercury loops the star in about 88 Earth days, yet the planet's slow turn means that from noon to noon is twice that span, 176 Earth days. Stand near the line between day and night and watch the sun creep and hesitate near perihelion. Geometry conspires so that the sun can even seem to pause or drift backward for a time. The product of a 3-to-2 resonance between spin and orbit. Dawn is not a sky event. It is geology in motion, light scraping across craters and cliffs, waking the ground one ridge at a time. Beneath the battered crust lies a paradox, a small world wearing an oversized heart of iron, dense enough to surprise, magnetic enough to raise questions. Its global field is a quiet relic of planetary youth and cooling. Its surface, a map of volcanic floods long stilled, and great scarps, ragged cliffs pushed up as the entire planet shrank. Heat, leaving slowly like breath on a cold window. To circle Mercury is to read the early chapters of the solar system in the original script. Metal, heat, time. How long does it take to reach Mercury? The practical mind asks. Months, if you only wish to pass and wave. years if you intend to stay and listen. Those patient years are a kind of meditation, the steady surrender of speed, layer by careful layer, until capture is not a struggle, but a natural settling. The reward is a view of the innermost keep of our star, where heat and shadow and time are distilled. The gaze drifts outward from that charcoal quiet to another kind of brightness, the steady lantern that climbs our mornings and lingers in our evenings. Venus is often the first light to greet a walker at dawn, the last to keep company at dusk. From far away, it is all softness, a pearl in a dark bowl. Up close, the softness is a mask. To meet Venus, we again fall sunward, trimming the energy of our path until the geometry aligns. Launch windows breathe open roughly every 19 months, and when Earth and Venus are poised just so, a transfer arc will carry a traveler in 4 to 5 months, something like 120 to 150 days of drifting while the sun grows larger in the window. The ship rides the sun's gravity like a slope, gaining speed as it descends the inner ramp of the system, instruments warming, radiation ticking higher, the destination brightening from star to disk to world. The brightness itself is a clue. Venus shines not because it glows, but because it returns nearly 3/4 of the sunlight that touches it. Thick clouds guard the surface, reflecting day back into space and hiding what lies beneath. Approach feels like the beginning of a dream, a world without shadows. Only a glowing haze that turns edges to rumor. Time on Venus is tilted. The planet spins so slowly and backward that one Venusian day, sunrise to sunrise, outlasts its year. Stand in that atmosphere, and the sun would appear to rise in the west, set in the east, drifting so slowly across the sky that an afternoon could feel like an era. The mind reaches for familiar markers and finds them softened, stretched, remade. Beneath the soft light lives a furnace. The air is almost pure carbon dioxide, thick enough to crush. At the ground, the pressure is more than 90 times Earth's, like standing a kilometer under the ocean. The heat hovers near 470 degrees Celsius, enough to make metal sag. Clouds high above are laced with sulfuric acid. Lightning flickers in their depths. Rain forms and evaporates before it ever touches stone, promises that never quite arrive. The horizon below is a wavering line, seen through heat and haze, over plains and broad shield volcanoes. Venus may host more volcanoes than any other planet. Many sit quiet, some perhaps still whispering fire. Our stories once painted this neighbor as a jungle under permanent cloud, a warm sea hiding beneath a pale sky. The truth is more sobering and more instructive. Venus likely lost its water grain by grain. Its oceans boiled into the air by relentless heat. Its hydrogen bled away to space under sunlight. Its oxygen married into rock. Without a protective global magnetic field, the top of the atmosphere faced the solar wind with little shield. The greenhouse that keeps Earth tender ran wild here, and equilibrium broke. It was not a single catastrophe. It was a long drift into a new state. Yet not every layer of Venus is forbidding. Float about 50 to 60 kilometers above the surface, and pressure and temperature resemble a summer day at home. There, in the golden haze, balloons could drift and listen, labs could hang like lanterns, and human eyes might watch a sunset that never quite becomes night. The world below hidden, and the sky a muted, endless glow. The thought feels like a lullaby and a warning at once. How long to reach Venus? Again, the answer is months in transit, a handful of quiet seasons counted carefully from the moment of launch to the first touch of atmosphere. The deeper answer arrives more slowly. Venus is a mirror sometimes of our past, sometimes of futures we would be wise to avoid. Earth and Venus were born shoulder to shoulder from the same dust, similar in size and promise. Early on, both may have worn oceans and clouds. One found a balance in feedbacks, carbon locked in stone, water raining and returning, a magnetic field singing around the planet like a guardian. The other slipped past a threshold and kept going. To study Venus is to measure the fine line between warmth and fever. From orbit, the planet looks tranquil, its cloud deck turning lazily. But even the clouds betray a deeper hurry. High winds whip them around the globe in about 4 Earth days, a super rotation that outruns the planet itself. Heat drives air like a great engine. Day and night on the ground do not change much, because the blanket above is thick and complete. The language of weather falters here. Storms have different rules. Rain has a different meaning. The compass points backward and the clock moves oddly, and yet the physics is no less elegant for its extremes. We listen for the ground through radar eyes. We find broad volcanic plains and tessellated highlands, sinuous lava channels, mountains with shoulders rounded by deep time. Fresh scars here and there hint that eruption still visits, that the interior is not asleep. We count the craters and read their ages, the way gardeners read rings in a tree. We imagine oceans that might have spread here in the early sun, then thinned and vanished. We picture hydrogen slipping free to space, oxygen bound into basalt, the planet's breath changed forever. A step onto that surface would be brief. Past landers have lived for minutes to a couple of hours before the heat and pressure silenced them. Imagine the scene, an orange sky with no blue, the horizon close and shimmering, a distant plain of dark rock that looks wet and is not. No birds, no wind you can feel, only a heavy, unyielding air and a patience in the ground that has nothing to do with life as we know it. Even the word day feels like a metaphor in such a place. And yet Venus is not a villain, not a cautionary tale scrawled in capital letters across the sky. It is a teacher. It shows what happens when a delicate balance tips and continues to tip. It shows how the same greenhouse effect that makes Earth habitable can, unrestrained, harden an entire world. In its brightness at dawn and dusk, it remains beautiful. In its physics, it remains honest. The months spent arriving are only the beginning. The understanding it offers can occupy lifetimes. Drifting away from that brilliant shroud, we carry both awe and care. The sister world is close in size, close in origin, and far in outcome. The lesson does not arrive with alarm. It arrives like a quiet hand on the shoulder. Pay attention. Small changes matter over long spans. Stars and orbits write the music, but atmosphere is an instrument, and how it is tuned shapes the song. Between Mercury's blade-edge shadows and Venus's endless noon, the inner solar system reveals more than destinations. It reveals methods. To go inward is to practice patience. To stay is to master restraint. Gravity is not an adversary to defeat, but a guide to follow. And time is not an enemy, but a medium we travel through a river that moves fast or slow depending on how we touch it. We are learning the slow art of arrival. The ship hums on. The sun swells and then recedes in the window as our path curls from one lane to the next. Numbers tick quietly in the dark. Velocities, angles, tiny thrusts measured in grams of force. Outside, everything seems still. Inside the math, everything flows. We have learned how to fall in a way that brings us to a stop. We have learned how to borrow speed with a kiss and give it back with a bow. We have learned that months can be short and years can be gentle, when the destination is not merely a place but a vantage. Behind us, Mercury remains a quiet ember by the hearth of the star, crackling with heat at noon and cold at midnight. Beside us, Venus glows, a lamp behind a curtain. Ahead lies the long outward walk, where the sun grows smaller and distances widen into patience of a different kind. We keep the same rule: no hurry. We carry the same promise: to treat each world not as a prize, but as a story, and each story as a way to fall asleep wiser than we woke. Our course shifts with a whisper, and the pole beneath our feet changes again, subtle, sure, like turning a page without breaking the spell. The neighborhood of the sun is wide, and we are only just getting started, one measured arc at a time. The ship turns almost imperceptibly, its path curving outward from the inner heat. Behind us, Mercury still smolders by the sun, Venus glows in its golden haze, and ahead there, waiting in the cool reach of the next orbit, is the red lantern that has haunted every dream we've ever launched into the dark, Mars. Its glow is steady and familiar, a soft ember visible even to the first skywatchers who looked up from fires and wondered what burned beyond their reach. Through the ages, it has drawn us, not with beauty alone, but with invitation, a promise that another shore exists, one we might someday touch. Unlike Venus, wrapped in veils of secrecy, Mars shows its face openly. The canyons, the dust plains, the polar caps, glinting under distant sunlight, all of it visible through glass and telescope. It does not hide, it waits. To speak of going there is to speak of longing disguised as geometry. The journey to Mars begins not in speed but in timing, in the quiet patience of orbital rhythm. Earth and Mars dance to different tempos around the sun, one inside track, quick and bright, one outside, slower, deliberate. Only every 26 months do they fall into the right alignment, when the red planet stands just ahead of us in its lane. That brief window, measured in weeks, is our doorway. Miss it, and the next opens nearly 2 years later. In the vast stillness of space, calendars become sacred instruments. When the alignment is true, we slip into a Hohmann transfer, that curved, graceful arc that carries us outward from the Sunday. It isn't a straight line, but an offering to gravity, a way of letting the universe do most of the work. From the moment the engines quiet, we coast 6 to 9 months of slow drift through deep space. Behind us, Earth fades, its blue shrinking into a star that glimmers no brighter than Venus once did in our own evening skies. Somewhere along that fade, a new kind of solitude begins. The journey becomes not only physical, but psychological. For the first time, humans would watch their home turn to a speck of light, no larger than memory. Each message sent home would take minutes to arrive. Each reply, minutes more. Conversations would no longer be exchanges, they would be echoes, traveling through the silence. Time would stop meaning soon. It would mean eventually. And in that pause, the human mind would stretch, relearning patience at the scale of orbits. Through the long months, the sun would grow smaller, the stars would grow sharper. Outside the window, everything would be motionless and alive at once. The hum of the spacecraft would replace the sound of oceans and wind, and each rotation of the vessel for warmth would feel like the beating of a mechanical heart. The body would learn to live without down, without weather, without the comfort of immediacy. What remains is thought, and the small rituals that keep it, steady measurements, communication, the slow gathering of data that proves the journey is working. Then, one morning in the ship's own rhythm, the red dot swells. Mars begins to bloom. Its color is not the bright scarlet of myth, but something more subtle, a rusty gold, a brownish blush deepened by dust and distance. It grows until it fills the viewport, and suddenly we see a world. Valleys deeper than the Grand Canyon, mountains taller than Everest, plains swept by slow-moving storms of whispering dust. It is a place of silence that speaks. Mars's orbit carries it far from the sun's warmth. The sunlight here is pale, the shadows long, the air is thin, less than 1% of Earth's atmosphere, mostly carbon dioxide, and offers little protection from radiation. The sky glows, but does not quite turn blue. It keeps a butterscotch hue, soft yet unreal. Once, rivers carved paths through these basins. Once, oceans might have shimmered where now lies desert. We read the evidence in dry deltas and mineral stains, in ice locked under red dust. To reach Mars is to stand at the doorway between what was and what might be. Traveling there demands respect for precision. The smallest error in launch timing can shift a course by millions of miles. Planetary positions are predicted decades in advance, calculated down to the minute. Engineers model not just where Mars will be, but where its pull will reach. If the launch is late, the craft will arrive at a point in space Mars has already left, a cosmic version of showing up at a memory. And in space, there are no do-overs without cost, fuel, time, patience, all burned together. To find the perfect moment, we must wait for gravity's invitation. When it comes, we slip outward, riding the geometry of the sun's field. It is a partnership rather than a contest. The planets lend us their motion. The sun offers its curve. We travel not against the universe, but with it. As the spacecraft nears Mars, another ancient technique comes into play, the gravity assist, a gentle theft of momentum, a shared motion that changes both partners, however slightly. We first used this cosmic courtesy on grander scales. Voyager 1 and 2, launched in the 1,970 seconds, caught a rare alignment of the outer worlds, a once-in-176 years perfection of rhythm. They hopped from Jupiter to Saturn, then onward to Uranus and Neptune, gaining speed with each encounter, like dancers handed from one partner to the next. Without those slingshots, they would never have reached the edge of the solar system within a human lifetime. That same principle applies to every world we visit. No planet moves alone. The solar system is a vast sea of exchanges, of borrowed and returned energy. In this way, space travel becomes an act of grace, a glide, not a thrust, a surrender, not a struggle. Imagine the moment Mars fills the sky. The ship curves gently into its gravity well, slowing as it falls. The red horizon swells, and dust storms shimmer like gauze across the plains. The first sight of the surface feels familiar, almost Earth-like valleys, mountains, traces of rivers, but also haunting in its stillness. Olympus Mons rises 3 times higher than Everest, its summit wide enough to cradle entire states. Valles Marineris stretches across a continent's width, a scar so deep the shadows there could hide cities. It is beauty drawn in silence, color drawn from iron. To step onto that soil would be to close a circle first opened when our ancestors looked up and wondered. The footprints we imagine there are not just marks of arrival. They are the continuation of an ancient question. Are we alone? For decades, our rovers, Spirit, Opportunity, curiosity, perseverance have been the patient scouts, moving inch by inch through the sand, listening for whispers of life long gone, or life just waiting for the right warmth to stir again. Each image they send home carries the quiet shock of recognition. Rocks shaped by water, layers of sediment that speak of ancient shorelines, salts that once dissolved in brine. We have not yet found proof of life, but the landscape feels aware of its own potential. To look at Mars is to glimpse Earth's reflection in another time, a world that might have been, or might become again, under different stars. When the first humans arrive, the act will not be conquest, it will be communion. We will build shelters and laboratories, but also windows to watch the slow, rosy twilight where the sun sets smaller, more distant, through a sky the color of cinnamon dust. A day there lasts nearly 25 Earth hours, close enough that the circadian rhythm might adjust with a sigh. Nights will be cold and long, but the stars will blaze with a clarity Earth's atmosphere never allowed. Phobos and Deimos, Mars's two small moons, will scuttle across the sky like quick shadows, rising and setting twice in a single night. Mars asks for patience, not bravado. It offers difficulty as a gift. To stay means to adapt, to breathe air drawn from carbon dioxide, to drink water coaxed from ice, to build warmth from the sun's stingy light. Yet in that struggle lies promise. Every technology invented for Mars, closed loops, sustainable cycles, efficiency without waste, will echo back home, teaching us how to care for Earth as carefully as we must care for a planet that gives us nothing freely. How long will it take? The question persists, but it feels smaller now. The answer, 6 months, 9 months, a handful of launch windows, is only arithmetic. What matters is the scale of meaning. To reach Mars is to extend the definition of home. To place human hands on alien soil is to admit that curiosity itself is survival, that our species cannot help but follow light wherever it goes. As we drift past the red world in imagination, watching its surface glow beneath the sun, we understand why every generation finds itself drawn to it anew. The journey outward mirrors the journey inward. To know Mars is to know what we are capable of enduring, and how fragile and how miraculous it is to belong anywhere at all. The engines murmur again, faint as a heartbeat, and the path bends outward just a few careful degrees toward deeper blue-black. Mars dims behind us, ember-like. The sun pulls itself into a small, bright seed in the aft window. Ahead, the corridor stretches, cool and unhurried, and the light takes on that distant, winter clarity you only notice when you've left the neighborhood of warm stone. Between the red world and the realm of giants lies a country of memory, the asteroid belt. Not the crowded chaos of movie screens, but a sparse museum in slow orbit, galleries lit by a far-off lamp. Here, fragments from the solar system's childhood turn in quiet display cases, rock, metal, carbon-rich clays, ancient ices, pages from a book bound before Earth's first rain. Jupiter's gravity once denied these pieces the chance to become a planet. It tugged and troubled the nursery just enough that no single body could gather the rest into a world. What remains is a ring of unfinished thoughts, circling for billions of years. The emptiness is generous. Despite all the stones you've heard about, the space between them is oceanic. A ship could cross the belt and never see anything larger than a whisper in the starfield. On average, hundreds of thousands of miles yawn between neighbors. The greatest danger is not collision, but vastness itself, the way silence grows so complete that your breath seems louder than machinery, the way stars don't shimmer because there is no air to make them flicker. The only wind is orbital motion, and it makes no sound. Yet the quiet is not a graveyard, it's a library. Each asteroid preserves chemistry undisturbed since the dawn, hydrated minerals that cup water in their crystal lattice, metallic cores stripped bare by ancient impacts, rich in nickel and iron, dark carbonaceous bodies that smell, if your mind could smell through vacuum, like old oils and dust. Someday, drifting cities might harvest water here for propellant and breath, metals for structure, organics for soil. The belt could become a string of wells along the road to elsewhere, a sustainable commons in the long story of leaving home gently. Time changes flavor in this country. There's no day, no night, only the sun's pinpoint slowly sliding among the fixed stars as you move. Time becomes geometry. You mark it in angles and faint glows. The pale shine on a rotating boulder, the flash of a bright, salt-white patch on a dwarf planet's face. Ceres appears first, round and restrained, nearly 600 miles across, a small world with a big, soft heart. Beneath its crust lies ice. In one scar, Ocator crater, bright deposits sparkle like frost in a headlamp. They are salts, lifted by brines that once welled up from below and dried in place. Evidence that black rock and cold water once spoke to each other here. A hidden ocean? Perhaps pockets, perhaps past seas. The possibility hums in the instruments, like a remembered tune. A little farther on, Vesta shows another page of the story. A body that tried to be a small planet and nearly succeeded. Basaltic plains testify to ancient lava. A gigantic impact basin at the South Pole reveals layers within, like the cross-section of a fruit. Differentiation, volcanism, cooling, world-making, interrupted. Crossing this region takes months, even at interplanetary speed, but the distance isn't counted in miles so much as in thoughts you didn't know you were carrying. The belt is a threshold. Inside it lie the worlds we know by weather and rock. Beyond it, the scale of everything turns a notch deeper, a notch stranger. The light dims a little more. Ahead, something begins to change in the numbers before it changes in the view. Instruments notice it first, a tug that isn't quite sun, a curve in the path that doesn't belong to your own momentum. Space itself seems to lean. Jupiter is still invisible to your eyes, but the ship knows. Gravity has a tone, and the tone is lowering. You don't arrive at Jupiter, you are received. How long the receiving takes depends on the road you chose. There are quick sprints and long glides. New horizons, young and almost reckless, crossed from Earth to Jupiter in a little over 13 months, one of the fastest passages any human craft has made. Others took the patient way, tucking past Venus and Earth again to borrow speed, then reaching for Jupiter after 5 or 6 years when the angles said yes. Each path is a conversation between fuel and time, between precision and margin, between the wish to hurry and the acceptance that the universe prefers grace. Even before the disk appears, you can feel the change in scale by what it does to ideas you thought were steady. Jupiter contains more than twice the mass of all the other planets combined. It is a world that almost was a star, but not quite. As you enter the kingdom of its pull, clocks on board would tick the tiniest shade, slower than those at home, imperceptible to your senses, measurable to your instruments. It's not magic. It's the way mass lays down a deeper carpet in space-time. and invites time itself to take shorter steps. You are crossing a gradient you can't see and will never forget. Then it rises, banded, luminous, impossible to misunderstand. Cream and ochre, cinnamon and gold, shadowed gray. The clouds do not drift, they heave. They climb and collapse and twist into ovals and plumes. You can sense heat moving from within because Jupiter glows with more energy than it receives from the sun, still shrugging off the compression of its birth. What we call cloud tops are the visible skins of grand, unseen depths, molecular hydrogen below, then liquid, and deeper still, a layer where hydrogen is pressed into a metallic sea that conducts and sloshes and sings in magnetic fields as large as a whole sky. There is no surface to stand on. There are only pressures that turn familiar matter into new grammar. Scale falls apart and reassembles itself. Jupiter's diameter is about 11 Earths laid side by side. Its magnetosphere would dwarf the sun in width if you could see it drawn out by the solar wind. The planet's magnetic moment, its overall magnetic might, is tens of thousands of times Earth's. A vast engine that traps charged particles and whips them into radiation belts, bright and cruel. If radio waves were sound to human ears, this region would roar with auroral hiss and crackle. Even the shadow of the planet feels crowded with phenomena. And Jupiter is not alone. It is a moving system, family, court, carnival. 4 big moons sail around it, like worlds in their own right. Io, hot and volcanic, peppered with sulfurous yellows and blacks, plumes reaching hundreds of kilometers high. Europa, smooth and bright, an ice shell veiling an ocean deep enough to drown everything we know. Ganymede, bigger than Mercury, with its own magnetic field nested inside Jupiter's vast one. Callisto, ancient and cratered, a ledger of impacts kept faithfully for eons. Beyond them drift dozens more, captured stones and shattered remnants, each with its private story in quiet orbit. The closer you move, the more Jupiter stops being a picture and becomes a presence. The great red spot rolls into view, an ancestor of storms, a monument to persistence. Oval, brick red fading to salmon, ringed with pale jets that shear and feed it, this cyclone has raged for centuries. Once it could swallow 3 Earths side by side. Now it could hold 1.5, maybe a little more. It is shrinking slowly, growing taller as it narrows, like a flame pulling tight in a still room. Winds there can top 400 miles per hour, and lightning flickers in clouds around it with energies our storms rarely muster. You watch, and what you feel is not danger, but duration. On Earth, our tempests are days. Here, weather is epochs. To understand such a storm is to widen your patience. You are not just looking at clouds, you are witnessing heat escaping a world at a planetary, generational cadence. The red spot reaches below the visible deck hundreds of miles into the belly of the atmosphere, dredging color from depths, braiding flows, entraining smaller vortices that spin away and then are swallowed in return. It changes, always. It endures, still. You could orbit for years and never see the same pattern twice, and yet always know where you are by a single red oval turning with the planet's 10-hour day. Travel time here is not counted between points but between perspectives. Your first approach tells you how far Jupiter is. Your first orbit tells you how immense it is. Your first flyby of a moon tells you how intricate it is. The second and the 10th tell you how quickly your certainties erode and are replaced by better ones. No one goes deeper into the outer system without feeling Jupiter's influence, and most travelers choose to use it. Gravity becomes an engine. The trick is surrender. Dive toward the giant on a path chosen to miss by a hair. Skim behind it at the right altitude and angle, then let its forward motion lend you a portion of speed. You leave on a new course, faster than you came, having spent not a drop of propellant in the exchange. It is a gift so small, Jupiter never notices. Yet for you, it is the difference between arriving in years and arriving in lifetimes. We've done this before. Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 timed their departures to match a rare alignment, a 176-year cadence of outer worlds. They fell past Jupiter, then hopped to Saturn, and one continued to Uranus and Neptune, visiting 4 giant planets by surfing gravity from one to the next. Without that choreography, reaching Neptune alone would have taken decades longer and oceans more fuel. Instead, the Voyagers are now out past the heliopause, tasting interstellar space, still sending back whispers in radio ink. Gravity wrote them a letter of introduction to the edge of the Sun's kingdom, and they are still reading it. But Jupiter's embrace is not to be taken lightly. The radiation belts can sear electronics if you pass too close. The right lane through that invisible weather is thinner than a thought. Mission planners thread it like a needle across millions of miles, millimeters mapped to the sky. Too far, and you leave speed on the table. Too near, and you risk a metal snowstorm inside your circuits. The window is real, and it is narrow. Space is indifferent, precise, and generous only to those who respect its arithmetic. As you execute the slingshot, Jupiter rushes up until it fills half the sky bands and storms in a living tapestry, and then races away again as your path curves outward. For a few minutes, you live in an accelerated world. Stars wheel, the planet swells and shrinks, moon shadows slide over the clouds like fingerprints. Somewhere deep in the math of it, your clock ticks the slightest bit slow. Somewhere deeper, you feel nothing but a silence that is not empty, the complicated hush of a maneuver done well. Even if you stay, even if you choose to orbit and linger, the feeling is the same. You have crossed a boundary of scale. Jupiter teaches you what planet can mean beyond dirt and ocean. It teaches you that storms can be elders, that heat can shine without flame, that a world can have no surface and still be a place. It teaches you to reframe time, not as the rhythm of calendars, but as the breathing of systems. We drift past the red spot's rim and watch small eddies shear off like sparks. We list the moons in a whisper and try to hold each in the mind at once. Io's volcanoes repaint its surface in days. Europa's ice binds and cracks as tides knead its ocean from below. Ganymede's bright and dark terrains stitch together eras of resurfacing. Callisto's craters overlap like rain rings on a pond that has been still for too long. You can orbit 1,000 times and still not be finished with the introductions. The hours around Jupiter have their own weight. They lengthen, not because clocks slow in a way you'd ever feel, but because your attention does. You find yourself counting the turns of small storms, the pulses in auroral curtains at Jupiter's poles where its magnetosphere funnels charged particles into glowing ovals larger than Earth itself. The planet's faint ring system, made of dust from moonlet collisions, brightens and fades as the light angles change. A diaphanous halo, not of ice like Saturn's, but of shadowed motes. And then, when the time comes, time measured in calculations and comfort with risk, you fly the curve that lets Jupiter's mass sign your passport and send you onward. The ship is different now. The numbers on your console confirm a speed you could not have paid for. The map shows a path that was out of reach before you learned to borrow. Behind you, the king of planets turns, patient in its storms, watchful with its moons. Ahead, The road narrows into cold, the rings and hexagons of Saturn, the slanted light beyond. But Jupiter leaves something with you that is not just velocity. It leaves an adjusted sense of humility. Here, near a world that outweighs imagination, you learned that travel is not conquest, but accord, that the most efficient moves are often the gentlest, that space prefers you to listen. We pass back across the belt's outer frontier with new eyes, realizing that even the smallest stones are part of this orchestra, kept in place by beats and pauses centuries long. The giant behind us radiates warmth like an old stove in a farmhouse kitchen, and though we are far beyond the line where you can feel it, the idea lingers. Far travel, it turns out, is made of close attention. The distances are great, but the steps are small and exact. A burn here, a pause there, a willingness to let gravity lead. Our course tilts another fraction. The sun is a white pin again, Jupiter a marbled coin in the memory, the belt a soft, dark ring we slipped between like a whisper through a door. Somewhere far to the side, Ceres turns its bright scars toward nobody in particular. Somewhere behind, Mars breathes its cinnamon dusk. Somewhere ahead, a second gate opens on a world with rings so thin and broad they look like geometry made visible. The ship settles into the new arc. The pull underfoot changes subtle, sure like turning a page without breaking the spell. We keep moving by not forcing. We keep time by listening. And the blue-black ahead deepens, inviting, patient, exact, as if the universe were a vast, slow clock and we had finally learned to read its hands by starlight. Farther on, something delicate blooms at the edge of vision, not a point but a sheen, as if the night itself had taken a thin breath and left frost in the air. It starts as a halo that doesn't seem to belong to any one place, then gathers itself into a single, impossible geometry. Saturn rises, a dream sculpted from ice and light. Long before the planet's disk appears, the rings whisper their presence wide, level, and gleaming, flung across space like a brushstroke, so steady it looks inevitable. The sunlight out here is a pale guest, but the rings welcome it and make it generous. Countless shards of ice and dust take that faint light and scatter it, so the dark around Saturn glitters as though someone stirred a spoon through a bowl of stars. They stretch farther than Earth is wide, up to about 175,000 miles from edge to edge, yet in many places they are no thicker than a house is tall. Distance wears a paradox here. Breadth measured in hundreds of thousands of miles, depth measured in feet. Reaching this world asks for years, not months. Cassini showed that with grace nearly 7 years between leaving home and settling into Saturn's rhythm. The time wasn't a delay. It was part of the transformation. With each week, the sun grew smaller and more precise, a bright idea pinned to the far wall of a cathedral. With each month, hurry emptied out of the body and was replaced by attention. By the time Saturn truly filled the window, patience had become its own habitat. Jupiter announces itself like thunder. Saturn arrives like a hymn. Golden shades fold through its atmosphere, veils of methane and haze, while its winds, fierce as they are, never disturb the sense that the planet is composed, almost ceremonious. If there were an ocean large enough, this colossal world would float. Its mass is immense, second only to Jupiter, yet its density is so low that it invites metaphors usually reserved for things with feathers and leaves. Under the clouds, the world makes its own heat. Like its great neighbor, Saturn shines with more energy than it receives. the deep layers of hydrogen compressed and warmed until they behave like something between liquid and metal. That slow churning helps shape a magnetic field gentler than Jupiter's, but still strong enough to corral charged particles and braid them into auroras. At the poles, those lights unfurl quietly, curtains of green, blue, and violet, flowing like silk in a room where no air moves. And still, the eye keeps returning to the rings. They are not one structure, but an orchestra of countless ringlets. Some are ribbon-thin, others broad as continents. Each particle keeps its own small promise to gravity, circling at a pace set billions of years ago. They nudge and kiss and separate, guided by resonances that move through the disk like music in a floor, and by tiny shepherd moons, Pan, Daphnis, Prometheus, that carve lanes and sharpen edges with the gentlest of pulls. The gaps are not emptiness, they are sculpted silence. Their substance sounds simple when spoken aloud, mostly water ice, with dust and rock, yet simplicity here contains a memoir. Perhaps the rings were born from a moon shattered by tides. Perhaps they formed from the leftovers of a world that never was. Whatever their origin, they are ancient without being eternal. Bit by bit, ice falls from ring to planet, a rain of light invisible to eyes but counted by instruments, a slow vanishing that will take many human eras to notice and many more to complete. Beauty, it turns out, can be both enduring and in transit. We slip into their country and everything grows quieter still. There's no wind, no rustle, only the soft hum of the ship and the way sunlight fractures into silver dust on the hull. From up here, the rings look almost solid, like a frozen plane you could step onto. But between most of those glittering fragments lies space enough to pass through without touching a thing. The danger isn't collision. It's the weight of silence, the sense that time itself has sat down beside you and is content to say nothing at all. Time changes its language here. Seconds stop being useful. Revolutions take their place. Each orbit of each particle is a tick of a clock, too patient for wrists. A shard, smaller than a fingernail, has been circling since before any mountain rose on Earth. A boulder the size of a building has kept its graceful track, while ice ages came and left, while names were learned and forgotten, while maps were drawn and redrawn in places the rings will never visit. To consider those spans is to feel the mind loosen and settle, like snow falling until even the loudest shapes are gentle. The planet inside this halo is not without its own strangeness. Near the North Pole, clouds arrange themselves as a hexagon, a six-sided storm that turns and turns, locked to the latitude as if the sky had found geometry irresistible. Jet streams run like taut cords around the planet, each lane of atmosphere slipping past the next, making bands of gold and cream that stretch all the way around. Saturn does less to impress than to persuade. The longer you watch, the more its restraint looks like mastery. And then the moons, a family in slow procession. Some are crumbs and pebbles. Some are worlds with their own weather and questions. They make the planet into a system, a place of places, a moving neighborhood where every address has its own light. Titan is the largest, and it arrives not as a point, but as a mood. It wears a thick, honey-colored haze that turns sunlight into a perpetual late afternoon. Beneath that haze is an atmosphere rich in nitrogen, dense enough to press softly against a person's skin, kind enough to slow a falling probe until it drifts like a leaf. Rivers run there, rain falls, lakes fill and evaporate, but methane plays the part of water. At 290 degrees Fahrenheit, water freezes into something harder than granite and becomes bedrock. Methane relaxes into liquid and writes the landscape with familiar grammar in an unfamiliar script. To approach Titan is to learn another cadence of patience. After the ship is cradled by Saturn's gravity, there are weeks of small corrections to match Titan's slow path. Weeks in which you memorize the color of the haze and the way the rings brighten, then fade, then brighten again as the geometry changes. Descent would be hours long, through layers of organic mist that scatter the sun into gold flakes. Gravity there is gentle, about 14% of Earth's, so a step becomes a quiet bounce, and the air, thick as it is, muffles sound until even your own voice feels like a thought you kept to yourself. On the ground, lakes of methane and ethane lie as calm as ink. Dunes of dark hydrocarbon sand march in long, repeating lines. Valleys and deltas etch the surface in shapes a river lover would recognize anywhere, only slower. A single day lasts about 16 Earth days. Dawn is not a moment, it is a process. Night lingers until it feels like a season. Through gaps in the haze, you might see the rings' ghostly arcs, like chalk lines drawn on the ceiling of the sky, reminding you that this quiet place belongs to something enormous and precise. Beneath that frozen skin, many models point to a hidden ocean of salty water, warmed by the moon's own heart and by the kneading of Saturn's tides. Above, seas of methane. Below, seas of water. Between them, chemistry that never quite sleeps. Titan doesn't imitate Earth, it rhymes with it. To stand there, if ever we do, would be to stand in a poem about beginnings, written in a different alphabet. Another moon speaks in a brighter voice. Enceladus is small enough to fit inside a large county, bright enough to look freshly painted. Near its south pole, fissures, tiger stripes, some call them, exhale plumes of vapor and ice into space, fountains so high they fall back as snow. Those plumes feed a faint outer ring around Saturn, a filigree of dust that glows only for instruments and for the patient eye. In the spray, we've noticed salt and simple organics, the kinds of molecules that feel like punctuation marks in a sentence biology might someday finish. The heat that drives those geysers doesn't come from the sun, it's tide and friction, gravity squeezing and releasing the moon, until the energy must go somewhere and chooses to write itself into water. Cold is not the same as lifeless. That is the lesson the Saturn system offers again and again. Mimas turns with a crater so big it gives the moon the look of a wary eye. Rhea and Dione carry pale fractures like veins of quartz in dark stone. Iapetus refuses consistency, showing one hemisphere bright as snow and the other black as char, a coin of opposites flipping forever. Dozens more shepherds, captives, fragments, keep their appointments along the lanes Saturn's gravity has drawn for them. Travel here teaches the craft of waiting. Cassini's long arrival, the patient looping from moon to moon, the unhurried mapping of rings and fields, none of it felt like delay. Out here, light takes well over an hour to make the trip from the sun. Shadows move with unshowy certainty. Storms form without the need to announce themselves. The grandeur is not loud, it is thorough. As we spiral through the ring plane, the ship passes into Saturn's shadow, and the universe changes key. The rings go from bright to black in a breath, and the planet becomes a silhouette edged in thin fire. For a span that can't be held by clocks, there is only starlight, no glare, no glare's opinions, just the cold, articulate glitter of distance. When we slide back into day again, the rings flash with a brightness that feels almost tender, as if light had found a home in ice and liked it there. We pause not in engines, which never truly stop, but in the mind, between ring and ring, between ice and light. There is a gift peculiar to this place, the permission to do nothing but notice. Each particle keeps to its lane, each lane keeps to its chord. Somewhere, a tiny moon pulls and lets go, pulls and lets go, and a wave rolls through the disk so slowly it could be mistaken for stillness if you didn't love it enough to watch. Titan returns to the edge of thought, then slips away again into its amber shell. Enceladus blinks, a bright eyelid opening and closing as its plume catches the Sunday. Far above the North Pole, the hexagon turns another fraction, keeping time no human wristwatch could hope to honor. These are not sights you collect. They are atmospheres you inhabit until they change the way you breathe. How long did it take to reach all this? Years. How long would it take to understand it? Many lives. Yet the facts remain gentle in the telling. The rings, for all their width, are thin, often on the order of just a few dozen feet. The winds can race above 1,100 miles per hour, yet you will have to listen carefully to notice, because the song they sing is far below human hearing. The planet radiates more energy than it receives. Its density would let it float. The shepherd moons make gaps, the gaps make music, the music makes patience. We drift along the inner edge of a brighter band and look down where ring light spills across the top of Saturn's clouds. It paints them in quiet gradients, pearl, bone, pale tea, until the planet seems less like a sphere than a lantern lit from within. If you could touch the atmosphere, it would feel like touching a story about depth. If you could lay a hand on a ring particle, it would feel like touching memory. Eventually, the ship leans, barely, and the numbers on the console change like the tide. A whisper of thrust gathers us for the next lane. Saturn stays where it has always been turning, warming, writing its weather at a scale that makes epochs look like afternoons. We do not leave it so much as carry it with us. The image of rings, like sheet music spread across the dark, the recollection of auroras, drawing their own alphabets at the poles, the sensation that here, more than anywhere, balance is not just possible, but preferred. The sun is smaller still, a white coin now. The planet becomes a luminous seed in the rear view, then an idea, then something you're not sure you didn't dream, but the lessons remain tangible. Distance can be tender, quiet can be full. Speed is a kind of courtesy when it's borrowed with care from gravity's generous ledger. And beauty, the patient kind, doesn't need to last forever to be complete. It needs only to be met in its own tempo. Ahead, the road cools and narrows, tilting toward worlds that keep their secrets in sideways light. Saturn keeps turning in the mind, its rings ticking off a time that belongs to no calendar, its moons circling like hours that refuse to be hurried. The ship hums, content in the dark. We keep moving by not forcing. We keep time by listening. The blue-black deepens, and the next lesson waits, quiet, patient, exact. Distances lengthen until they feel like weather. Power is saved like breath. The ship slips into a gentle hibernation, not asleep so much as pared down to essentials. Instruments on pulse, heaters whispering, guidance thinking in long, slow sentences. Out here, the sun is a lantern in another room. Its warmth arrives thin and thoughtful, not enough to feed greedy panels for very long. Years loosen from the calendar and stretch out into a single, continuous drift. Somewhere ahead, the pale world leans on its side and pretends not to notice us, Uranus. The path to that tilted planet is a vow kept over time rather than distance alone. 7 to 10 years is a common arc, even with gravity's help. Much of it is coasting, the elegant kind where motion does the work and engines stay quiet. The ship's heartbeat slows to what the journey needs. Days become months, months become years, and you learn a new kind of patience. Trust in the math. Trust in the faint tugs you cannot touch. Trust in messages that take hours to arrive and hours to return. At Uranus's range, more than 1.8 billion miles from the Sun, a single instruction can spend nearly 3 hours crossing the dark one way. Course corrections begin as intention, become radio, turn to action, and only much later turn to confirmation. Navigation is no longer a conversation, it's a correspondence. Uranus makes its case without raising its voice. The disk gathers light with a soft hand, pale blue, almost opal, as if the planet were remembering a deeper color but declining to say it aloud. Methane in the upper air drinks red light, leaving blue behind. What lies beneath is layered ice and gas water, ammonia, methane packed and pressed into states that are neither exactly liquid nor the kind of solid we know. Unlike the gas giants Jupiter and Saturn, this is an ice giant, denser in its secret interiors, more reserved in its tempers, stranger in its symmetry. The strangest symmetry is the tilt. Uranus has turned almost all the way onto its side, tipped about 98 degrees, so that its poles take turns facing the Sun directly. Seasons here are not seasons as we know them. One pole stares into uninterrupted day for 42 Earth years, while the other keeps to night for the same span. Then, slowly, they trade. If sunrise is a promise on Earth, it is an era here. A child born at the beginning of spring on one hemisphere would grow gray before summer fully settled. An entire life could unfold within a single season and never see the next. From far away, the planet looks serene. Up close, the air moves with purpose. Winds can slip along at more than 500 miles per hour, circling a world with no ground, only layers squeezing closer to a core we still imagine more than know. From time to time, storms bloom with surprising energy, especially near equinox when sunlight redistributes and the atmosphere rebalances, like a long cord resolving after decades of build. The boundary between day and night, the terminator hardly budges for years. It's a bruise of shadow that only slowly migrates, reminding you that time here is not a clock, but a migration of light. Around this sideways planet, a family keeps pace. Thin rings hide in the dimness, dark and narrow, discovered by their subtraction of starlight. Moons move in the same tilted plane as their parent, quiet stones and bright ones alike, wearing names borrowed from theater and dream: Titania, Oberon, Ariel, Umbriel, Miranda. Some may keep oceans under their ice, oceans that take centuries to warm and centuries to cool, pulsing to the rhythm of tides and distant sunlight. Miranda, small and odd, carries scars and terraces as if it has been taken apart and put back together more than once. Its crust heaved and refrozen in patchwork. Here, time doesn't just pass. It leaves fingerprints. Approach slows everything: velocity, thought, even awe. The ship trims its path with the restraint of someone turning pages by the edges so as not to wake a sleeping friend. Saturn's influence fades to a memory. Uranus's pull becomes the bass note beneath all other sounds. The planet grows from a coin to a marble to a world. The blue isn't loud, it's certain. And in that certainty, endurance feels like a kind of praise. The long cruise to Uranus is more than a stretch of transit. It's a practice in handing a mission from one set of hands to the next. Plans are drawn by one generation and received by another. By the time the ship reaches the sideways world, people who sent it may be retired, relocated, or remembered. Interplanetary flight becomes a letter sent to the future, signed by curiosity and addressed to patience. When the spacecraft wakes more fully for operations, heaters up, instruments bright, antenna steady and sure, it feels less like a machine coming online and more like a traveler rubbing sleep from its eyes before a long-awaited meeting. We linger as long as fuel and geometry will allow. We watch dawn take years to cross a circle. We follow the ring's faint edges like pencil lines in dim light. We whisper the moon's names and let them orbit through us. When the time comes to move on, we do not feel we are leaving so much as allowing the season to keep going without us. The pull changes again, subtle and exact. The letter to the future receives one more page. Farther out, the dark grows a shade deeper, and the miles grow an opinion about what counts as near. The sun is a bright pin with a memory attached. The ship resumes its quiet economy. Long glides, small burns, instruments cycling between listening and rest. The next blue waits beyond the next patience. Neptune. Even with gravity's lending hand, Neptune is a dozen years away along most paths. Voyager 2 made the crossing in roughly that span, leaving in 1977 and arriving in 1989 to find a world no one had seen closely, and a moon that refused to behave like the others. The outer system stretches time until it becomes something you hold with both hands. If Uranus teaches endurance, Neptune teaches devotion. The first glimpse is a deeper blue, sapphire, leaning toward indigo, as if the color itself were compressed by cold. Methane again leaves blue behind, but the planet has more weather in it than Uranus does, more willingness to show its work. Winds here can top 1,300 miles per hour, the fastest in the solar system, tearing past in bands and spots, assembling storms large enough to swallow continents on Earth. The day is brief, about 16 hours, but the year is long beyond intimacy, roughly 165 Earth years. You could live and die and never see Neptune repeat a season. Under the clouds, the mantle is a high-pressure medley of water, ammonia, and methane exotic ices, super compressed and strange, sliding towards states our hands have never held. Deeper still, models whisper of superionic water, where hydrogen ions move through an oxygen lattice like sparks through a net, conducting electricity as they go, shaping a magnetic field that's tilted and offset, as if the planet's dynamo had chosen its own peculiar geometry. Lightning may flicker where no eye will ever see, stitched into layers that are more pressure than place, more equation than weather. The planet keeps a ring or two, faint and dusty, and a retinue of moons that feel like a final act and a first hint at the same time. Triton is the loudest of the quiet, a large moon moving the wrong way retrograde against Neptune's spin, likely a captured body from the Kuiper Belt. Its surface is pale and active, with geysers that vent nitrogen into a sky almost too thin to be called one, leaving dark fans on the frost. Even here, nearly 3 billion miles from Earth, something is still awake, still trading energy between inside and out, still drawing patterns on a face that ought, by all our small experience, to be finished. To travel this far shifts the meaning of arrive. Navigation becomes a choreography of trust. Instructions step across hours of emptiness. Confirmations step back. The ship's schedule is written in long lines, calibrations spaced like constellations, observations planned like migrations. Outside the windows, if the mind allows windows, there are no markers of morning or night, only the steadfast house lights of distant stars and the far star we call the sun, bright and untwinkling. Time blurs not because we are careless with it, but because the distances stretch it thin until the mind can see through. When Neptune fills the frame, the universe feels briefly intimate again. The color moves. A dark oval appears and disappears across months, a storm that reminds us not all weather needs land to end. High, thin clouds cast shadows on deeper layers, proof that motion and depth are conversing. Along the limb, sunlight outlines the curve like a lit thread pulled tight. We orbit as long as we can, cutting arcs that turn data into a kind of music spectra, fields, images, counts, each note a way of saying, we were here, that the universe understands. Beyond Neptune, the heliocentric road keeps going out to the dim precincts of the Kuiper Belt, out to comets that sleep and wake and sleep, out past the boundary where the sun's breath thins into the interstellar wind. But for now, we let the edge be an idea rather than a destination. It is enough to stand at the last bright planet and feel the scale of all we have crossed. Mercury's knife-edged day and night, Venus's endless noon, Mars's red hush, the antique stones of the belt, Jupiter's patient rage, Saturn's luminous geometry, Uranus's seasons that last a lifetime, Neptune's swift blue winds. Each taught slowness differently, each changed the tempo of our thoughts. How long did it take? To Uranus, years that felt like a single inhale held with care. To Neptune, years that felt like a vow, spoken softly and kept. Out here, how long becomes another way of asking how deeply. The engines remain considerate. The ship breathes. We hold the rail a little tighter, not from fear, but to feel the hum. We lean into the dark that is not empty. And in the hush where clocks forget themselves, we let two blue worlds keep turning, one on its side, one in its weather, while we drift into a sleep that understands the patience of light. The road narrows to a fine blue thread, and the ship follows it without strain, a leaf gliding along a quiet current. The sun is a bright pin behind us. Uranus fades to a pale idea. Ahead, the color deepens, as if the dark itself were steeped in indigo. Neptune waits there, not motionless, not silent, but breathing in a way only wind can breathe when there is no land to stop it. The first thing you notice is not a shape, but a rhythm. Bands slide past bands. Pale streaks cast shadows on deeper blues. A dark oval opens like an eye, and then closes again, months later, replaced by another, elsewhere. The planet's weather doesn't depend on light the way ours does. Out here, sunlight arrives as a suggestion, not a command. What stirs Neptune is warmth from below, an inward glow that makes the air above it restless. The world shines with more energy than it receives, and the excess writes its signature across the atmosphere. Belts and spots, waves and curtains, all moving to a meter set by internal heat. We lean into orbit and the motion resolves into detail. Winds flow faster than sound, up to about 1,300 miles an hour, almost impatient with their own speed. On Earth, a hurricane is an event. Here, wind is architecture. It shapes clouds into smooth lanes and spirals, draws fine ripples that sweep like breath across glass. The most famous mark, once, was the Great Dark Spot, seen by Voyager, 2 inches, 1,989, an oval storm that swaggered across the hemisphere, before dissolving years later, its role taken up by new ovals in new places. Neptune does not hoard its tempests. It composes, performs, then revises, always in motion, never bored. High above the deeper haze, bright methane ice clouds drift like brushstrokes. They gleam white against the blue, and when the sun is right, throw small shadows on the layers below. From our vantage, those shadows are the only sound we get in the vacuum, a rhythm you can't hear but can see, a proof of texture where everything else looks seamless. If we sank a probe into the upper winds, we'd witness velocity without volume, eddies without roar, a storm so loud in motion it becomes silence to ears that require air. Time tilts in orbit just as light does. The day is short, about 16 hours, quick enough that storms loop the planet in what feels like a single breath, yet the year is long beyond memory, roughly 165 Earth years. Imagine a season that takes decades to unfold, a storm that outlasts careers. Neptune asks patience, not by standing still, but by moving at a scale that makes impatience irrelevant. Under the clouds lies a mantle of exotic ices, water, ammonia, methane under crushing pressure, sliding and slurring towards states our hands have never held. Deeper still, there may be a layer where water becomes superionic hydrogen ions, wandering through an oxygen lattice, like sparks through a wire conducting electricity, helping drive a magnetic field that is tilted and offset. As if the dynamo chose to lean out of alignment just to see what would happen. Lightning may streak in those buried skies, forever unseen, illuminating a world inside a world, weather within weather. Rings, thin and dusty, encircle the planet like penciled circles on dark paper. Moons keep company and counsel. Triton, largest and most contrary, orbits backward, a captured wanderer from the Kuiper belt, pale and active, venting nitrogen into space in delicate fans. Even here, nearly 3 billion miles from the warmth that grew us, a moon lifts vapor into light and writes new marks on old frost. The outer system is less a museum than a workshop that works in long, slow hours. We drift above the blue, measuring, admiring, learning to read motion as meaning. The ship passes over a line where high clouds throw shadows so sharp they look etched. The sensor plots jitter with the thrill that only clean data gives. We are not rushed, we are disciplined. That is the difference out here. Every observation is a kindness we offer to time, which returns the favor by not hurrying us along. And then the edge announces itself, not with a cliff, but with a taper. The sun is smaller, the instruments say more than the view can, and the wind that has always brushed outward from our star thins like breath in winter air. We keep our orbit long enough to bow to Neptune's weather and then lean outward again, letting gravity set us down on a trajectory that leaves the last bright planet behind. The light turns spare. Distance, which has been our medium all along, becomes our subject. We enter a district of the solar system where the sun's influence is still large, but no longer loud. For billions of years, our star has exhaled a breeze of charged particles, protons, and electrons, tangled and straightened by a magnetic field that rides out with them, and that breeze has inflated a bubble in the galaxy. The heliosphere, vast and protective, a shelter the size of a system. As we move outward, pressure from the inside wind meets pressure from the thin interstellar medium outside the sparse fog of atoms between stars. The boundary is not a line you can point to, but a region you can feel if you know how to listen. First comes the heliosheath, a place where the solar wind slows, compresses, and warms as it presses against the galactic air. The ship notices before we do. Particle counters favor different digits. Magnetic readings find new angles. The quiet changes key. Sunlight, already dim as moonlight, takes more than 4 hours to make the trip to our hull. Solar panels would be ornaments in a room this dark. Only the small, tireless warmth of nuclear power keeps the instruments at their posts. The craft in conversation with the faraway dish that listens for us across oceans and continents, and the night in between. Time stretches here until it becomes habit. We plan in days and wait in weeks. We fire a thruster and confirm in hours. We economize in ways that feel like meditation. Signals that would have seemed intolerably slow near Earth now feel like the natural pace. The ship is patient because it must be. We become patient because we can. Beyond the heliosheath waits the heliopause, the place where the sun's wind gives way to the galaxies. Not a wall, not a door, but a tide line, a negotiation. Inside, particles born in the furnace of our star. Outside, cosmic rays arriving from supernovae and distant engines, messengers of happenings we will never see. Only 2 human artifacts have stepped across that tide line, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, and their voices, when they reach us, have traveled more than 18 hours to do so, their strength spent to almost nothing, and then restored by antennas and math and care. They are old now, and celebrated, and still working, their whisper a reassurance that the map keeps going after the edge of the page. We do not cross the heliopause tonight. We stand in its foyer and look at the lights down the hall. Between here and the great outside lies another district of our house, the Kuiper Belt, a wide, cold ring of small worlds, and not quite worlds, of comets sleeping shallow and deep, of ice that has kept its secrets since before the planets settled into their lanes. Somewhere within that ring drifts a body once called the 9th planet, and now called by the older, simpler name, Pluto. Names change less than landscapes do, though, and Pluto's landscape was a surprise when we finally saw it closely. New Horizons made the crossing in 9.5 years, a quick dart by outer system standards, launched with a rare fierceness, and then lent speed by Jupiter's gravity until it raced into the cold, with a plan that did not include stopping. That was never an option. The spacecraft flew by on a rail of intention, taking pictures and spectra and counts in a single day of closeness that ended as soon as it began. Decades of idea and preparation for hours of encounter. The arithmetic of the far Sunday. What the craft saw was not a quiet stone, not an inert relic, but a small world with a personality you could outline with a finger. A heart-shaped expanse of nitrogen ice, Tomball Regio, spreading across one hemisphere, reflecting sunlight like a beacon. Mountains of water ice tough enough to stand in that cold, knotted and sharp. Plains patterned like cracked skin, where the nitrogen creeps and convects, cycling and resurfacing like breath, frozen and thawed. A thin atmosphere of nitrogen that swells as Pluto nears the sun and collapses as it retreats. A tide of air responding to a season that lasts generations. A year there spans about 248 of ours. No one alive has ever watched Pluto complete a single loop around the Sunday. Seasons are not quarters of a year. They are chapters in a family history. Sharon keeps company so closely that the pair orbit a point in space between them, a double world turning together. Sharon's face shows canyons as deep as imagination and surface shifts we are only beginning to interpret. The dance is slow, synchronous, precise, and because it is slow, it is steady. If you lived there, you would never see your partner turn its face away. They are tidally locked, a courtesy performed over eons until both partners learned to keep their best side toward each other always. Pluto taught us that small does not mean simple. It taught us that the outer dark is not an archive of only old stories, but a library where new books are still being written in ice. It taught us that the Kuiper Belt is not a fringe, but a district, and that beyond even that district lies more. Between Neptune's winds and Pluto's frozen heart, the ship's days took on a hush. We sent commands like letters. The craft replied in postcards. Out here, there are few adjustments to make and many hours to think. We looked back often at Neptune's dark ovals and bright clouds, at Triton's vapor fans traced by oblique light, and we looked ahead more often still to the slow and quiet traffic of Kuiper Belt objects gliding along their elongate paths. Some cross into the inner system now and then and become comets, tails drawn out by sunlight and the wind we have been learning to say goodbye to. Most simply remain, cold and competent, carrying water and carbon, ammonia and rock, the raw ingredients of worlds, waiting to be tried in different recipes. We think about the heliosphere again, about the way our star's breath shapes a bubble around all of this. We think about the heliosheath warming like a final exhale, where wind meets wind, and the heliopause as the point where our weather ends and the galaxies begins. We think about the Voyagers, one crossing in 2012, the other in 2018, stepping across and finding a sea that is not empty, but very, very thin, a place where particles come from everywhere at once. Their clocks tick more slowly now that they are that far out, but the difference is too small to feel. What we feel instead is the generosity of their staying in touch. Eventually, gently, we let Pluto slide behind us as well. We cannot linger. The path we chose does not include stopping. The ship keeps going because the equations say it will until something asks it not to gravity from a body we decide to visit, or simply the patience of instruments running down. The sun is a bright star now, not the star, and the constellations have shuffled slightly, like friends around a table leaning in to listen. What did Neptune's storms teach? That motion is a kind of language, and that a planet can sing with heat that has nothing to do with dawn. What did the heliosphere teach? That we live inside our star's breath, a shelter you cannot see until you've reached the door. What did Pluto teach? That edges are beginnings in disguise, that small things keep large promises, that a heart can be written in ice and mean warmth anyway. The ship hums. The hours between signals lengthen and then become the new normal. We measure space in the time light takes to cross it. We measure time in the patience it takes to hear the reply. The universe does not shout, it whispers, and in that whisper there is more than enough to rest in. Beyond the last familiar planet, beyond the last classified world, the road keeps going. Comets asleep under black blankets, dwarf planets that may or may not want our names, the slow, thin wind of the galaxy sliding past the thinning wind of our star. We are not rushing, we are listening. The great bubble that held us grows softer beneath our palms. The outer dark stops feeling like a wall and starts feeling like a field. Some symphonies are not meant to be heard. They are meant to be seen, the sweep of a cloud's shadow across a deeper cloud, the nod of a ringlet as a shepherd moon passes, the pale glint of nitrogen frost when the sun knifes in low. Some are meant to be felt the moment the particle counters prefer the galaxy to the sun, the soft warmth in the heliosheath that tells you are nearing the tide line, the long breath of a spacecraft coming fully awake after years of careful sleep. Some are meant simply to be known, the fact that our neighborhood has an edge, and that the edge is porous, and that we have already, with quiet radios and golden records, said hello to what lies beyond. We lean farther in tonight. The storms we leave behind keep their ballet. The blue remains blue, whether we watch or not. The bubble that sheltered us will keep sheltering those who come after, and the maps will keep their new names: heliosheath, heliopause, interstellar. We do not arrive, exactly. We adopt a new kind of going. The universe keeps its slow clock. We keep time by listening. And in the patient cadence of that listening, the next horizon loosens from darkness and begins to take a shape we'll learn together to love. The map unrolls a little farther, and the dark ahead softens into possibility. We don't arrive so much as learn a new way of going unhurried, attentive, letting the universe keep its slow clock while we keep time by listening. In that patient cadence, another question drifts up from the quiet. If distance has its own music, what would it mean to sleep through the long rests between the notes? Out here, the scale of things asks something tender but difficult of human lives. A spacecraft can coast for decades, solar panels sip, or a small nuclear heart hums. Instruments wake and do their careful work, then nestle back into standby. Software is the kind of patient that never complains. But a person's decades are not a machine's decades. They are birthdays, and empty chairs, and cities that do not look the same when you return. A voyage to Uranus, Neptune, or beyond Pluto is not only a trip, it is a promise to step sideways from Earth's timeline and accept that the world will move on without you. So the thought arrives, quiet as snowfall. Could we let the body sleep while the ship glides? Not a fairy tale, just a colder, slower kind of rest. Nature sketches the idea everywhere for those willing to read. Arctic frogs that freeze and thaw with the seasons, fish and insects that pause their chemistry until weather remembers them, microbes in polar ice that wait out centuries like a held breath. In laboratories, we already lull cells and tissues into stillness, lower temperatures, reduce metabolism, then bring them back as if time were a coat you can take off and put on again. The human version, if we learn it, will likely start not with the deep stasis of fiction, but with torpor, a controlled, reversible slowing, a few degrees of cooling, a heart that beats like a patient drum, breathing shallow, careful, continuous. Even that much could change the arithmetic of long missions: food, water, oxygen trimmed by half or more, perhaps by 3/4. Waking would be reserved for crossings that need hands and judgment, a course correction, a burn, the joy of a window brightening with a new world. Between those moments, a soft, engineered winter would hold the body gently while the ship writes miles into the log. But this isn't only plumbing and pharmacology. It is also a question of the mind. What does time become when most of it passes while you sleep? Is a long voyage lived as a string of lucid islands, separated by seas of absent hours, or as one continuous dream with stars for punctuation? Will waking feel like a breath between two lines of the same sentence, or like stepping out of a door into a century you did not watch arrive? Memory bridges a gap with ease in the small scale of nights and mornings. How will it fare with years? Perhaps the answer is kind. Perhaps in the hush of the chamber, with the ship's quiet systems thrumming, time ceases to be something you endure and becomes something you cross. Distance is not conquered, it is surrendered to. We travel by stillness as much as by speed, letting the universe rotate under us while we rest inside a carefully kept winter. If that works, the outer system comes closer, not by inches per second, but by the courage to let an era pass like dusk. Even then, there are boundaries that neither hibernation nor courage can bend. We keep circling back to the simplest, most absolute tempo we know, the speed of light. It is a number with the neatness of a rule, about 186,282 miles per second, quick enough to race around Earth 7 times in a heartbeat, and yet even that astonishment has to obey time. Light from the moon spends a little over a second en route to us. Light from the sun needs 8 minutes and 20 seconds. Jupiter's reflection reaches our eyes as it was roughly 35 minutes ago. Neptune's deep blue is a message sent almost 4 hours earlier. Everything we see is already a memory by the time it arrives. It's a generous memory. It lets us know our neighborhood, but it also draws a line. If we could ride with the light, Mars at its closest would be 3 minutes away, or 21 minutes when it hides on the far side of the Sunday Alpha Centauri, would be more than 4 years. The Andromeda Galaxy would be 2.5 million, light-bright, swift, tireless, and still it must travel. The fastest thing in the universe is an excellent teacher of patience. What if we tried to sit beside it? Relativity tells us the world is accommodating but demanding. As a traveler approaches light speed, time slows for them relative to those who stay behind. Distances in the direction of travel shrink. Seconds stretch. The fabric of space-time reshapes itself to keep the rules intact. Decades could pass on Earth, while only months or days pass aboard a nearly luminal ship, but the price is steep. The closer you push a massive vehicle toward light speed, the more energy you need. Not a linear increase, but a climb that grows cliff-like. At 99% of light speed, the bill is already staggering. At 100%, the equation asks for infinity, and infinity isn't something we can pump into a tank. So we step back from the absolute and ask gentler questions. What might get us far faster than the fire and thunder of chemical rockets without arguing with physics itself? We look to engines that copy the stars. Fusion. In a fusion drive, light nuclei, hydrogen's isotopes, are persuaded by temperature and pressure to join, releasing energy 1,000,000 times richer per pound of fuel than the fiercest chemical flame. Pack that into a design we can control, and the math begins to shimmer. Mars could be a matter of weeks, not months. Jupiter, a few months. The far giants, perhaps within a couple of years, still long for a calendar, but suddenly small enough to hold inside one human life without turning it into a history lesson. We look, too, at the brightest possible match, antimatter. When matter meets its mirror opposite, they vanish into energy with almost perfect efficiency. Milligrams could equal tons. But antimatter is the most fastidious fuel the imagination has ever met. It cannot touch the walls that hold it. It cannot brush against the air. It must be kept in magnetic bottles, persuaded to wait, then asked to behave inside an engine that has yet to be built. We've made picograms in labs and kept them for fragmentary instants. A practical store remains a promise to the future. Still, the promise gleams. Weeks to Neptune, a hop to Pluto that feels more like a road trip than an exile. There are gentler ideas that use no propellant at all, only patience and persistence. A sail the size of a house or a city so thin it's more absence than presence, pushed not by wind, but by light. Photons carry momentum. They nudge, given time, and a steady, powerful beam from Earth or lunar lasers. A sail can be coaxed to high fractions of light speed. The breakthrough starshot concept imagines gram-scale craft to another star in about 20 years. Inside our own system, scaled wisely, the same trick could turn months into days, days into hours, so long as we accept that the engine stays at home and the vehicle rides a river of illumination. Even the wildest sketches warp fields, traversable wormholes, are not fairy tale rebellions, so much as thought experiments built on real equations. General relativity allows space itself to stretch faster than any limit on travelers moving through space. If you could compress the distance ahead and expand the distance behind, you might cross a great gulf without technically breaking a rule. The bill, again, is steep. Forms of energy we do not know how to assemble. Magnitudes we do not know how to afford. Engineering that today is a poem written to a later century. But the math does not laugh us out of the room. It simply waits for us to grow. Between these horizons, sleep and speed, patience and power, the human path outward may not choose a single method but many, woven to fit the voyage, near Earth, chemical thunder, and reusable craft. Across the warm inner lanes, efficient electric propulsion that sips xenon and pushes constantly, gently, for years. Farther, fusion, if we master it. Sails where light is plentiful, gravitational assists where planets lend their motion like a strong hand at the elbow. Torpor aboard to make the waiting kinder. None of them turns a universe into a short walk. All of them teach us how to be at home in it. We are not the first to send our names beyond the wind of our star. 2 voyagers, 2 pioneers, 1 New Horizons, each carrying instruments, and also a small gift, plaques or golden records, etched with greetings and maps, music and diagrams. Fragments of our hope written in copper and gold. Their transmitters falter in old age. Their power supplies relax. The stars do not come closer. And still their signals arrive faint, stubborn, faithful after 18 hours of flight through darkness to touch aluminum dishes on a turning Earth. There is comfort in that steadiness. It suggests that the universe rewards careful attention with a kind of companionship. So we think of a sleeper cradled in a cool berth, of a ship riding a beam through star-washed midnight, of a compact sun in a bottle flickering softly behind a magnetic nozzle, of a thin sail curved just right to catch a pressure you can only measure, not feel. We think of a corridor of light that a child could walk in imagination, Mars in a handful of minutes at light speed, the outer worlds in hours, the heliopause in a half day. We accept that those are measures for photons, not for us, and we use them anyway, not to diminish our journeys, but to give our wonder a ruler that fits the scale of what we love. How far do we wish to go, and how soon? The universe answers with a shrug and a smile. As far as your patience, your care, your craft, your kindness to time will allow. The speed of light is a boundary, but not of imagination. It is the tempo of a larger song. We can learn harmonies. We can keep the beat. For now, we let the ship keep humming in the key of endurance. We let the dark be generous with its quiet. We let possibilities breathe, fusion burning bright in equations, antimatter bottles drawn in precise lines, laser arrays imagined on high plateaus, torpor carefully tested in rooms that smell like antiseptic and hope. We let the planets turn without us for a while, and we do not begrudge them their distance. Distance, we are learning, is not a refusal. It is an invitation written in miles and years. The next horizon loosens from darkness, as all horizons do, first as a mood, then as a shape, then as a place we can name. We will not force our way there. We will arrive by agreeing with the sky. If we must sleep, we will sleep kindly. If we must wait, we will wait well. If we must learn to ride light, we will keep our balance like sailors listening for the weather. The universe keeps its slow clock. We keep time by listening. And in that steady human rhythm, half lullaby, half engineering, we open a hand to the distances until they place theirs in ours. The next horizon loosens from darkness the way all horizons do, first as a feeling, then as an outline, then as a place we can name without raising our voice. We won't force our way there. We'll arrive by agreeing with the sky. If waiting is asked of us, we'll wait well. If light becomes a road, we'll learn the balance of walking it. The universe keeps its slow clock. We keep time by listening. In that steady human rhythm, half lullaby, half engineering, we open a hand to the distances until they place theirs in ours. There is another rhythm hidden in the dark, one that does not belong to engines or orbits. It belongs to time itself. Imagine easing into a ship built to travel so quickly that ordinary experience must make room for relativity. Acceleration gathers like a tide, and the windows show what they've always shown: stars in their places, the long indigo of space. But something intimate begins to tilt, not outside, inside. Seconds keep their shape, minutes behave. The pulse in your wrist is as faithful as ever. Yet for those watching from Earth, your time has softened, drawn out, slowed. Einstein's prediction takes on the gentleness of fact. At high speed, time for the traveler flows more slowly than time for the watcher. In your seat, 30 years to the edge of the outer dark might feel like a handful years, perhaps months, while the calendars at home turn with a quicker hand. The numbers refuse drama and still feel like myth come true. At 90% of light speed, time on board can pass more than twice as slowly. At 99%, a factor of about 7. Push to the almost impossible 4 nines after the decimal, and a year on the ship can correspond to centuries on Earth. Your thoughts, your aging, the quiet arithmetic of your cells unchanged in your frame. But the rest of the world rushes forward as if a distant orchestra had decided to quicken the tempo without asking. The language we use for distance starts to dissolve, and language for return takes its place. If 5 years pass for you, while 50 pass for home, the map on your lap and the map in your memory part company, you would step back onto a planet that is kept moving without you. Streets renamed, voices you loved grown hushed or grown stranger. Children turned to elders, with stories ready in their eyes. The old tales understood this before equations did. Sailors who visited an island of slow time and came back to find their names worn smooth by history. Relativity doesn't conjure fate. It explains the price. The faster we move through space, the slower we move through time. And somewhere between those two kindnesses, a choice waits. We already measure the effect in tender increments. Astronauts aboard the space station accumulate microseconds of youth compared to those on the ground, a difference small enough to smile at and still respect. At higher speeds, those shavings of time become months, then years. To ride that boundary well would be to accept that travel is not only about where we go, but also about how much of ourselves we are willing to leave behind in the ledger of hours. Out here, planets become more than places. They are preserved moments. Mercury holds the heat of early making. Venus keeps a record of a balance lost. Earth is a cradle that remembers to rock. Mars is a quiet what if, written in iron dust. Jupiter and Saturn keep storms like archives, and gravity like law. Uranus and Neptune store seasons in decades and wind in blue. Beyond them, small worlds carry ancient ice and new surprises the Kuiper Belt's scattered library. Pluto with its bright, beating plane of nitrogen. Triton with its backward dance and pale plumes. A trip through space becomes a walk through time's museum, and every exhibit is still alive. Perspective changes what counts as large. From a backyard, the sky looks serene, dots on velvet, a polite arrangement. From out here, serenity reveals itself as choreography. Orbits migrate. Oceans freeze and flow. Atmospheres bloom and thin. Rings shape themselves, then soften. Gravity gathers the ensemble and keeps the beat without ever raising its voice. Look back toward the inner system and the planets are points again, nearly indistinguishable from stars. One of those points is the sum of every argument and every forgiveness, every book in every field, every face you've tried to remember and every song you've ever half forgotten. It's not a humbling sight, so much as a widening one. The smallness isn't an insult, it's an invitation. We are not diminished by being a dot. We are lifted by being the dot that knows it. The measure of time changes too. A Jovian storm can outlast nations. A ripple of nitrogen across Pluto's heart-shaped basin can take longer than a career to complete a cycle. The solar wind fades like breath at the edge of the heliosphere, a boundary large enough to be a country, soft enough to be a lullaby. Our path has shown that time is not a single thread pulled tight. It's a tapestry of different looms. The quick spin of a day, the leisurely procession of seasons, the patient centuries of weather that never needs ground to make rain. We are stitched into all of them at once. The wonder is that we can tell. We keep going until the sun's influence feels like a memory told in low light. Beyond the last bright planet, the road enters the province of small, cold citizens, worlds that never learned to be large, worlds that never wanted to. The Kuiper Belt thins to whispers, and farther still lies a region that does not care about our maps. A vast, sparse shell of icy objects, tacked to the galaxy more than to our star. We give it a name, to have something to point to, and call it the Oort cloud. It is not a wall, it is a flock, spread thinly across light years, a reservoir of beginnings that almost never spill. A passing star coughs, a distant tide lifts, a handful of bodies are nudged inward, and 1,000,000 years later a comet draws a script of fire across familiar skies. Most of the rest will never feel summer. They will keep the dark kindly, as if doing us a favor by waiting. The scale at this boundary is a kind of music that prefers very long notes. To its imagined outer edge is a crossing measured in tens of thousands of years by any ship we've yet built, and the shell itself is measured in light years, a unit that asks us to accept that even light has errands that take time. Between here and the next good sun are rooms with no lamps and floors made of very little, atoms drifting, dust waiting for a story, the faint afterheat of things that tried hard to be stars and almost made it. Brown dwarfs glow like banked coals. Rogue planets keep their oceans if they have them inward, warmed by the friction of their own turning and the patience of their rock. Alpha Centauri is the nearest porch light, and it is still more than 4 years away for light itself. The fastest craft we have ever launched would need the length of human prehistory to arrive. So we ask new questions with old hearts. Could a ship become a village, generations carrying the torch one to the next, like runners who trust the course more than the finish line? Could memory become the engine stories and equations mixed together as fuel? Could we accept that arrival isn't always the point, That departure can be its own kind of arrival if what we learn changes how we live at home. The edge of the sun's breath is not a door that closes, it's a threshold that offers you a choice about who you want to be when you step across. We've practiced for this in smaller rooms, cislunar flights that taught us how to leave and come back kindly, robotic journeys that taught us how to see without touching, the long patience of waveguides and dishes that taught us how to hear a whisper across a day and answer without shouting. Interstellar space will ask for those same habits, only longer. Patience, attention, care, the disciplines of sleep and of science, twin arts that look more alike the farther you go. If time slows for the traveler, then travel itself becomes a way to make more of it, not in the sum of years lived back home, but in the depth of moments alive out here. Ask any window, ask any ring. Ask the pale arc of an exosphere around a small world that was supposed to be boring and turned out to be beautiful. What matters, in the end, isn't that we sprint. It's that we witness, and that the witnessing changes us in gentle, permanent ways. We turn, without fuss, toward the long, dark lawn beyond our yard, and let the galaxy be what it has always been, a patient host with more rooms than anyone will ever count. Somewhere, lights are already on. Somewhere, oceans are kept warm by different fires. Somewhere, a storm takes 1,000 years to lift a hand and wave. We do not rush to meet them. We let our questions arrive first. Can a mind be safely kept across centuries? Can a ship be a culture? Can we remain kind while we learn to be quick? The answers will not come as trumpets. They will come as adjustments, as new kinds of quiet we are proud to keep, torpor that holds the body without losing the person. Engines that shine like mathematics made warm, sails that listen to lasers and answer by leaning, communications that forgive delay and become conversations with the future instead of demands on the present. None of it erases distance. All of it makes distance a friend. We glance back, the way travelers do, and the inner system is a handful of pearls scattered on black cloth. One glint is the place that taught us to speak and to ask for more than speaking. Every anger we've ever had and every reconciliation we've ever made live in that point of light, together with the first time someone looked up and counted anything. The borders we draw with straight lines on curved ground are invisible from here. The arguments we cherish soften. What remains is a clarity that does not accuse. We are small, and we are lucky, and we are responsible to the luck. The story we've followed across these miles has been less about conquering than about learning how to move in tune. Mercury taught edge and shadow. Venus taught cost. Mars taught quiet ambition. The belt taught patience with ruins. Jupiter taught scale. Saturn taught balance. Uranus taught seasons long enough to be histories. Neptune taught motion that needs no thunder. Pluto taught that a heart can be made of ice and still be true. The heliosphere taught that we live inside a breath. The Voyagers taught that a whisper can outlast applause. Relativity adds one last footnote, written in calm ink: travel far and fast, and the future will meet you at the door when you come home. You may be the same age you expected in your bones. The world will not be. That is not a tragedy unless you require the world to hold still. Let it move. Let yourself be moved. The myth of the hero who returns to find their house changed turns out to be a physics lesson with feelings. We can learn both. Beyond the sun's last soft reach, the Oort cloud keeps its patient archive. Beyond that, The local sea of stars waits with a politeness that feels like kindness. We are not exiles in that sea. We are citizens learning the customs. The first law is attention. The second is time. The third is the same as at home. Be gentle with what is smaller than you. Be grateful before what is larger. There will be nights when the ship hardly seems to move and the readouts hum the same comfortable numbers as yesterday. Those are good nights. The universe does not test us only with storms. Sometimes it tests us with quiet and the ability to love it. There will be mornings when a sensor catches a particle that shouldn't be there, or a star's light bends just a little more than expected, and a new line is added to the map. Those are good mornings. They mean we are still in conversation with a place that answers. If it takes decades to reach the edge of our own light and centuries to greet another, then the project is bigger than any one of us. That is not a reason to stop. It is a reason to start well and keep starting. We don't measure our worth in arrivals, but in the quality of our going, the care with which we hold each other inside long plans, the decency with which we write instructions to people we will never meet, the steadiness with which we carry wonder without spilling it. The next horizon loosens again. It always will. First a mood, then an outline, then a name we speak softly because names are promises. We won't force our way there. We'll arrive by agreeing with the sky. If we must sleep, we'll make sleep a kindness, not a surrender. If we must wait, we'll wait the way rings wait, without boredom, with purpose. If we must learn to ride light, we'll do it like sailors reading the wind, attentive, grateful, exact. The universe keeps its slow clock. We keep time by listening. And in that measured human music, half lullaby, half craft distance turns its face toward us, familiar as an old friend seen in starlight. We are not lost in the vastness. We are at home in it, learning the steps, one gentle orbit at a time, and giving our names to the dark, not to own it, but to love it well. So we keep listening softly as the quiet widens around us. The steps we learned out here are small and careful. Distance measured in attention, time kept by patience, wonder carried without spilling. We traced warm inner lanes and the cold blue outskirts. We watched storms that outlast empires and rings that sing in silence. We felt how light takes its time and how time becomes a kind of light. Every world was a chapter, every chapter a way of seeing home more clearly. What began as a question, how long would it take, became something kinder. How gently can we go? We found that speed is only one answer. The others are listening, balance, and the courage to let the universe move at its own true tempo. When we did, the dark stopped being a wall and turned into a room with the lamp already on. If your thoughts feel light now, let them drift. Let them circle once more, past Mercury's edge, over Venus's glow, through red dust and antique stone, by marbled storms and quiet rings, past the blue twins and the faint, bright hearts at the rim. Then let them dim, like windows after midnight, steady and calm. We'll leave the sky turning as it always has. You can rest inside its rhythm. Good night, traveler. Let the stars keep the watch.